Thank God I never have to touch my math or science textbooks ever again. This was the version of me you probably would have seen after my board exams. But some of you may ask, how's this even related to her topic? So let's get on with that, shall we? Good morning, everyone. My name is Sreedevi, and today I stand before you to speak on the topic lateral versus vertical thinking. You know, this topic reminds me of something that happened a few years ago. Whenever I used to score low in math, my father used to tell me, Sreedevi, you use the right side of your brain way too much. You should be more focused on using the left side. And my poor, confused 13-year-old self used to look at him like this and wonder, what does he even mean? So well, now that I'm older and wiser, or so I would like to think, I've come to realize that the right side of your brain is associated with lateral thinking and the left with vertical thinking. That being said, this means that the right side of your brain is designed for the more creative aspects in life and the left for the more logical parts in it. So naturally, when I chose humanities after 10th, I thought that my toxic relationship with the left side of my brain was finally over. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. Because vertical thinking decided to give me a slap to my face, after which I realized that this could be seen even in our daily lives. So let's get to that. Just like any other normal teenager would think, I had always associated these fancy terms with academics. Vertical thinking was math, and lateral thinking was English for me. I felt like Buddha sitting under the Bodhi tree when realization dawned upon me that these concepts were so deeply ingrained into our lives that they could be seen everywhere. Except I didn't have to do years of meditation for enlightenment. All I had to do was submit my projects. Your index, the minimum number of pages required, the category, all of that is vertical thinking. Now how you customize your project, your fonts, your examples, the pictures you use, all of that is lateral thinking. So naturally, I thought that all of this was something that I would never have to face. Well, I was wrong again, because this made my life have a whole lot of sense. Think of your mind as a vehicle. It has always been taught to move in a straight line. But what if the road's blocked? What do? Take another route, obviously, right? So that moment where you have a eureka, hours or maybe days after an argument, wherein you suddenly realize that, oh, why didn't the perfect comeback occur to me before? That is because your brain finally decided to take a side route because the frontal perspective doesn't always work. Personally, I've always been a literature kid. The world of math and science was never meant for me to bother myself with. Keep that in mind while I tell you something. Something that I truly hope none of you remember by the time I'm done speaking. These subjects once frustrated me so much that I resorted to rote learning them. Can you imagine rote learning math and science? My parents were horrified. But something hit me. Teachers always tell us to not rote learn for our exams and understand the concepts. And all of us, including me, have wondered, what difference does it really make? Well, the difference is that the moment the question twists itself a little, vertical thinking fails you and your brain goes into panic mode. So now when vertical thinking is acting like the damsel in distress, lateral thinking must swoop in and save the day. And this is again where it must intervene. I'm sure most of you have heard of the author Amish Tripathi. He's quite famous, right? In one of my favorite books, he elaborates on the concept of the masculine and the feminine way of life. The former focuses on rules, rigidity, and structure, while the latter focuses on creativity, uniqueness, and freedom. This explains something extremely important to all of us. Take a moment to think about this. Do you think any civilization or any individual, for that matter, would be able to survive with just one of these while completely neglecting the other? Of course not. A world without lateral thinking would be filled with humans acting like robots, doing the same tasks over and over and over again. This would mean that narrow-mindedness would be on the rise, and people would be constantly limiting themselves from innovation. A world without vertical thinking would be filled with unbridled beings with little to no sense of self-control, because let's not forget, creativity is not just restricted towards positive thoughts. Inconsistency, chaos, and a poor standard of execution would be set here. How boring does all of this sound, right? Personally, it was an epiphany, realizing that it was never about a competition between these two. It was never about deciding which one was better. So I hate to admit it, Dad, but you were right. It turns out I do need the left side of my brain. Because you don't need to choose between being creative or being logical. Because you need both of them in your life. Sure, you may favor one side more than the other, just like I did. But it is literally impossible for you to completely discard it. So here's one thing that I've learned. As someone who was once averse to the idea of vertical thinking, as someone who once blamed her brain, lateral thinking and vertical thinking are simply two sides of the same coin, designed to coexist, not compete. Thank you.